I'm 42. I've been married to my wife, Lena, for 6 years, and together we've been a couple for 8. She has 2 kids from her previous marriage, now 13 and 10, and I've been their stepdad practically since they were born. We don't have kids of our own, and honestly, I never felt an overwhelming need to. I was happy being part of their lives, and I genuinely cared for them as if they were mine. Life, for the most part, felt stable. Stable doesn't mean perfect. It just means you can wake up every morning and feel like the world isn't going to fall apart that day. We had our routines, our little chaos, our arguments over money, chores, or the usual stuff that every family fights about. But it all felt manageable. We laughed. We argued. We made up. I trusted her, and I felt like she trusted me. Christmas was always our favorite time. Not because of presents or decorations, or any kind of flashy show of holiday cheer, but because of the little rituals we built over the years. We'd string up lights together, wrapping presents in the living room while a movie played in the background. The kids would sneak candy before dinner, arguing about who got the last piece. Lena would laugh, and I'd smile at her, feeling like everything was right in the world. Even when things were messy, chaotic, or imperfect, it was ours. Until 2 weeks ago, when that feeling of safety started to crumble. Before everything started to feel off, life was ordinary, in the best possible way. There were Saturday mornings when the kids would sit on the couch with their cereal bowls, fighting over which cartoon to watch, while Lena and I exchanged knowing glances, quietly laughing at their ridiculous arguments. Weeknight dinners were noisy, sometimes chaotic, but there was comfort in the chaos. I knew the rhythms of our home, when Lena would start humming while cooking, when the kids would suddenly argue about homework, when I'd have to referee some tiny dispute that felt monumental to them. Even the mundane things made me feel like I belonged. Grocery shopping together, rushing through morning routines, picking up forgotten homework, it all added up. I thought that trust, those small routines, were the glue holding us together. I never worried about Lena's past or her ex. Mark was just a name, a figure in the background. Lena had made it clear that he was part of her history, not her present, and I believed her. I loved our life, even with its imperfections. I loved the feeling of being part of a blended family that worked, well, mostly, and I loved Lena. I didn't think much about the future. I was content in the now, with the kids laughing, Lena's smile, and the predictable mess of everyday life. I thought things were fine. I thought they always would be. But life has a way of showing cracks where you least expect them, and I was about to discover one of the biggest I've ever faced. Then, about 2 weeks ago, things started feeling different. At first, it was subtle, small shifts that I didn't want to notice. Lena began spending more time on her phone, laughing quietly at messages she refused to show me. She started taking calls outside, disappearing for a few minutes at a time, and closing the door when she did. I told myself it was nothing, just her needing space, maybe catching up with friends or handling normal adult things. But my gut kept nagging at me. Something in the way she smiled at her phone, the little glances she'd shoot me, the way her tone changed when I asked a casual question, it all felt off. I started noticing patterns I hadn't before. The way she seemed slightly distracted when we talked, the way she'd occasionally sigh deeply as if carrying something she didn't want to share. I tried to rationalize it. I told myself I was being paranoid. I tried to dismiss the unease creeping into my chest. Still, even as I ignored it, there was a small voice in my head that whispered warnings. It told me to pay attention, to ask questions, to confront what I didn't want to see. But I didn't. I kept pretending everything was fine, convincing myself that I trusted her, and that trust had always been the foundation of our life. I had no idea how quickly that foundation was about to crack. It all came crashing down one evening while we were wrapping Christmas presents. I was in the middle of taping a box when Lena casually said, almost like she was talking about the weather, "So, Mark invited us to spend Christmas Eve and Christmas Day at his place." For a moment, I thought she was joking. I laughed nervously, unsure if I had heard her right. "Wait, what?" I asked, hoping she'd clarify that she was kidding. She didn't. Her face was calm, almost indifferent. He wants the kids to have a full family Christmas, she said, like it was a perfectly normal suggestion. And I thought it would be good for them. I froze. My hands stopped moving. The tape dispenser slipped through my fingers. You mean, you and him, and the kids? I asked, my voice trembling without me realizing it. Yes, she said simply. I tried to process it, but my brain refused to make sense of the words. My chest tightened, and an icy wave of panic ran through me. I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. And what about me? Where do I fit in? She hesitated, and that pause felt like a punch. Finally, she said, Well, I thought it might be less complicated if it was just us. Us. The word echoed in my head, heavy and suffocating. I felt my stomach drop, a tight knot forming that I couldn't shake. Everything I had trusted, everything I thought I knew about our life together, suddenly felt fragile. Like it could shatter at any moment. That night I felt hollow. Not the kind of hollow where you're sad or upset, but a deeper, bone-deep numbness that made it hard to breathe. Anger, disbelief, heartbreak, they all collided inside me, and I didn't know which emotion to focus on first. I wanted to yell, to storm out, to demand answers, but my body refused to respond. I just sat there, staring at the half-wrapped presents, trying to convince myself I had misheard her. I asked her directly if she still had feelings for Mark. She didn't say no. Instead, she said, It's not that simple. Those words echoed in my mind, heavier than anything I could have imagined. Not that simple. What did that even mean? I wanted her to explain, to reassure me, to deny it, but there was nothing. Just uncertainty and a calm that made the room feel colder. For hours we talked. She admitted she and Mark had been talking more, mostly about the kids, the past, and what went wrong. She insisted that nothing physical had happened. But the idea that she was emotionally leaning toward him, that part of her heart still lingered with someone else, cut me deeper than any lie could have. I asked her if she was planning to leave me. She cried, whispered that she didn't know, and admitted she felt pulled in two directions. She said I was a good man and didn't deserve this. I wanted to feel relief that she hadn't cheated physically, but instead, I just felt powerless. Completely powerless. It was the first time in years I had felt entirely out of control in my own marriage. The next few days were a haze. I barely slept, and every small thing reminded me of her words. Seeing the kids laugh at something reminded me of Mark. I felt invisible, trapped in a home that felt foreign. Lena was quiet, withdrawn, but not in a comforting way. Even family dinners became tense. I tried to act normal, but it was exhausting. Trust felt shattered, and love suddenly carried a weight I couldn't lift. I couldn't take it anymore. One night, after the kids went to bed, I finally confronted her. My voice shook even as I tried to stay calm. Are you in love with him? I asked. She didn't answer right away. Just looked at me, tears welling in her eyes, and whispered, I don't know. That hit me harder than anything. I wanted clarity, closure, reassurance, anything, but there was nothing. Only uncertainty. We argued, we cried, we said things we'd regret. She tried to justify it. It's just emotional. It doesn't mean I want to leave you. But it felt like a knife twisting in my chest. I pressed her. Do you want to leave me? She sobbed, said she wasn't sure. That night ended with no answers, just a heavier silence and the knowledge that our marriage had entered uncharted, fragile territory. After that night, everything changed. I couldn't stop replaying her words, the way she looked at me, the hesitation in her voice. Every glance at her phone, every message notification, made my chest tighten. I started second-guessing everything I thought I knew about our life together. Even the kids became a source of tension. I loved them, but every mention of Mark, every memory they shared from before I came along, felt like a reminder that part of her heart still belonged elsewhere. I felt jealous, ashamed for feeling jealous, and completely out of control. The home that once felt safe now felt fragile, like walking on thin ice. I wanted to talk to her again, to get reassurance, but the thought of hearing the same, "I don't know," terrified me. I was trapped in a constant loop of doubt and fear, unable to trust her, or even myself, for missing the signs. Christmas came, and everything felt off. Lena ended up taking the kids to Mark's place, leaving me alone in the house for the first time in years during the holidays. I tried to keep busy, wrapping presents, cleaning, even watching a Christmas movie, but every laugh I heard from the kids over the phone felt like a knife twisting in my chest. I couldn't help picturing them with him, Lena smiling at him in ways she never smiled at me, memories being made that I wasn't part of. Even small things, the decorations, the music, the smell of cookies baking, reminded me of the life I thought I had. I felt invisible, sidelined in my own family, and yet expected to be happy for them. The loneliness was suffocating. I kept replaying every moment of the past 2 weeks, asking myself if I had missed something, if I had been blind, naive, or too trusting. Every pang of doubt hurt more than any argument we'd ever had. Christmas, once the most comforting time of the year, became a hollow, painful reminder of how much had changed in just days. By the time the holiday weekend ended, I felt completely broken. Sleep was impossible. My mind refused to quiet down. Every memory, every conversation replayed endlessly, twisting into doubts and fears I couldn't control. I was angry at her, angry at myself for trusting too blindly, angry at the universe for letting this happen. I cried in ways I hadn't since I was a teenager, quiet, desperate, and alone. Even when I tried to distract myself with work or chores, the hollow pit in my chest remained. I felt like a spectator in my own life, watching Lena and the kids move on without me while I stayed stuck in this cloud of uncertainty and heartbreak. Friends noticed I'd changed. I smiled less, laughed less. I didn't tell them why. How could I? It felt too raw, too shameful. And at home, every glance at Lena reminded me that the person I loved most was emotionally elsewhere, leaving me to navigate the aftermath alone. After a few days of cold silence, I tried to talk to Lena again. I wanted answers, clarity, something to anchor myself in, but every conversation felt like walking on eggshells. I asked her how she felt, what she wanted, if she could see a future with me. She said she still loved me, that she didn't want to hurt me, but that she was confused, pulled in 2 directions, and needed time to sort out her feelings. We tried to spend moments together, small attempts at normalcy, dinner, a walk, helping the kids with homework, but the tension lingered like a shadow. Every smile, every casual touch, felt fragile, as if it could shatter at any second. I wanted to believe her, but trust isn't rebuilt overnight, and every interaction made me hyper-aware of how emotionally distant she had become. I questioned myself constantly. Was I being too harsh? Too demanding? Too insecure? Maybe I was overreacting, or maybe this was the truth I didn't want to face. The push-pull between wanting to forgive and fearing betrayal tore me apart. Weeks went by, and the tension never fully lifted. Every time Lena mentioned Mark, even casually, I felt a sting I couldn't control. Even the kids brought it up sometimes, talking about past memories or things they did with him, and I had to force myself to stay calm. I loved them, but every reminder of him made me feel like I was losing my place in the family. I realized that the emotional wound ran deeper than I had thought. It wasn't just jealousy or hurt, it was betrayal, the knowledge that the person I trusted most had a part of her heart elsewhere. Sleep remained fitful, my appetite waned, and even small daily tasks felt like climbing a mountain. I tried to push through, but nothing felt the same. The sense of safety, the comfort of my home, the warmth of our Christmas traditions, they all carried a shadow now. I could still laugh, still enjoy moments, but there was always a quiet ache underneath, a constant reminder that some part of our life had been irrevocably changed. The more I tried to bridge the gap, the more I felt her slipping away. It wasn't dramatic or obvious. It was the small things that hurt the most. Lena stopped looking at me the way she used to. There was no warmth in her gaze anymore. The casual touches, the small kisses, the comforting familiarity we once had, they faded, replaced by an awkwardness I couldn't shake. I felt like I was living with a stranger, someone I thought I knew but now couldn't reach. We still lived under the same roof, still went through the motions of family life, but the emotional connection had become a distant memory. I could see her trying to keep things together, but it was like watching someone try to hold up a broken vase with tape. It never felt solid. I started to pull away too, not out of spite but out of self-preservation. I stopped confiding in her, stopped sharing my thoughts, because I didn't feel like she was listening anymore. The worst part was the silence. It wasn't that we didn't talk, we did, but every conversation felt hollow. We'd talk about bills, school projects, what to have for dinner, but anything that mattered, the hurt, the betrayal, the uncertainty, went unsaid. I didn't know how to bring it up without seeming like I was demanding an answer she wasn't ready to give, and I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine either. It all came to a head one evening. I realized I couldn't keep living like this, stuck in a house with someone I loved but couldn't fully trust, someone whose heart might belong elsewhere. I felt exhausted, drained, and emotionally raw. Every interaction with Lena, every reminder of Mark, every quiet moment alone became unbearable. I confronted her again, trying to force clarity. "We can't keep going like this," I said, voice tight with frustration and hurt. "I need to know where we stand, or I don't think I can do this anymore." She looked at me, tears streaming, saying she didn't know, that she loved me but was confused, that she needed time. In that moment, I realized that love alone wasn't enough. Trust had been broken, and no amount of effort could repair it overnight. I didn't want to give up, but I also couldn't stay in a limbo that was slowly killing me. It was the first time I truly understood the distance between us might be permanent, and that some things, once broken, don't fully come back. Looking back, I realize how blind I was to the warning signs. I trusted too easily, ignored the small moments that didn't sit right, and convinced myself everything was fine. Love felt like a guarantee, but it isn't. It never is. I still love Lena. I still care for the kids. But there's a shadow over everything now, a quiet, constant reminder that someone I trusted completely could feel pulled towards someone else, even while living a life with me. Christmas, once my favorite time of year, will never feel the same. The traditions, the laughter, the warmth, they all carry a hollow undertone now. I don't know if we'll survive this. I don't know if I'll ever trust her fully again. But I do know one thing, life as I knew it is gone. And I'm sharing this because maybe someone else will read it and recognize the signs I missed. Love doesn't always protect you from heartbreak, and sometimes, the person you trust most can be the one who hurts you the deepest.